what would you say? It's ends up being the connection of all that with Ayn Rand and objectivism, because as far as we're talking here, we have barely popped up the theme of what is objectivism and how it correlates to all that, besides just the books being the inspiration for you in a lot of parts in your life.
You know how in science, if you're an engineer, you go to engineering school and you learn a little bit of physics to understand where the formulas that you're using come from. Because, you know, laws of thermodynamics and gravity and all of that are the basis of our physical world. And then if you want to make something like a product, if you want to produce something like this, you have to abide by the laws of physics. But you take it to another level. You don't make up the laws of physics, you just use them. Because there's a division of labor between an engineer and a physicist, right?
Yes.
In the domain of living, in the domain of understanding life and what the human condition is all about, I see the same division of labor. We are the engineers of our own life, and the philosophers are the physicists. They discover what life is all about, what are we thriving to achieve. Now, unfortunately, philosophy is almost completely corrupted by so many bad philosophers. I mean, in the outside world, if I drop this thing, you can say, okay, my theory of physics says if I leave this thing, it will go up, right?
It's checkable.
It's
fast.
You can see it, right? It falls down. So you can prove that your theory of physics actually works. In philosophy, anything goes.
What about
so you can
social
say,
studies?
The common good is should be our common goal. Let's try communism, and you see people die, and you don't understand why. Because I think it's really good to take care of everyone. Only if you understand that the human condition, what does it mean to be a human? Like I said, epistemology, metaphysics, and then deriving ethics out of that is the only way to understand why freedom is even good. Do you know why freedom is good?
Because it allows me to do what I want, to pursue the happiness that I want.
Why isn't it good for me to tell you what to do if it's better for the humanity? If I tell you I have a master plan to use your life to better the betterment of human race, why would you want to live your own life if I can tell you how to use your life to the best common good?
Because I'm in control of my life.
Right? Who owns my life?
Yeah.
Who can even tell what your life should be about? Only you. Right? And that comes from the nature of our mind, the way we think, the way we value, right? The way we conceptualize the world. Ayn Rand says you don't have to get the commandments from the sky to tell you to find your values, not to kill anyone else, not to cheat, not to lie. I don't think that even people know why it's not good to lie. And it's because of the nature of your subconscious, because it cannot fake reality, right?
I like I think I saw that from Jordan Peterson of why not to lie, and I try to take it very deep within me, because it's a very utilitarian reason why not to lie. Because if you start to lie, you begin building a reality in which you don't fit.
Yeah.
And by having this discrepancy, you start to suffer because you're trying to actually be someone that you are not, and that creates a gap, and that gap ends up being suffering.
Let me take it in a different angle. The function of your mind is to integrate reality, right? To take the inputs that I receive from my senses, integrate them into percepts, and then conceptualize them and store it in my subconscious, which is very fast, as you know, lightning fast. If I steal something from you that I know is yours, it integrates and it registers in my subconscious. I can never forget it, right? And I have a moral evaluation of that is negative, that I cannot get rid of. So at every waking moment after I stole your stuff, I will know and tell myself that I'm a thief. Ayn Rand says, if you think that there is an entity that watches you 24/7, and judges you for the good and the bad, it exists.
It's yourself.
Here. Right? This is why you shouldn't lie. If I could convince myself to forget that I stole and I would succeed, I would say it would be okay to steal. Oh, well, I wouldn't say that at all, right?
I know.
And I think, if you think rationally, what will happen if people will steal from each other? But the deep reason why it's not good to fake reality is because of the way our subconscious mind functions. It's not a commandment from the sky.
And it's interesting that because it's also somewhat utilitarian, right? Because if you steal, then you are suffering later on.
But it's not utilitarian. It's completely selfish. That's what Ayn Rand says. You know, you can present it as utilitarian.
That's exactly what I meant. I said
there's no contradiction.
I want it to mean it has a purpose that benefits you.
Yeah,
which would be selfish.
And you know, I love how Ayn Rand tackles the concept of selfishness by showing it's a package deal. If you want to confuse someone, give them a word that means multiple things, like selfish. Selfish is you care for yourself, which is we all do all the time. You brush your teeth this morning?
Yes.
Why? Because you care for yourself, right? But we put in the same word not caring for others, which is something completely different, right? We should have another word for that. Now, you think about it, what really happens in reality is that in order to care for yourself really rationally, you should care for other people because you should care about your environment, the people that surround you. Is it fun to see homeless people in the street for you? No, it's not for me. So if I give $1 to a beggar in the street, who is it for? For me, right? So she solves the so-called conflict between my own self-interest and everybody else. This is why we suspect rich people, because they're very successful. Why suspect them? They're just doing an amazing job. I say every dollar note in my pocket is a thank you letter from someone. If I have 1 billion of them, am I better or worse?
That assuming you got them through.
Yeah, of course, if you got a government intervention and I can steal my way into the money, but that's because of government intervention. In a free society, there's no way for me to...
Or we can always say like fraudulent, because business can also be fraudulent.
No, business cannot be fraudulent.
Of course they
Not
can.
for a long time.
No, yeah.
In a free market, if you fraud your customers or anyone else, you go out of business like this.
They probably end up going out of business. And if they are not, it's probably because there's some government intervention that's protecting them from,
Unfortunately, it will take us a long time to prove to you that every corruption that you see in the economy and in the environment you can trace it back to a government intervention. Because in a free market, there's no way to cheat. Who would you cheat? Who would give you the power? If you try to monopolize the market and squeeze more value than you deserve, you immediately have competition that will take you out of business, right? So, and by the way, the Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal by Ayn Rand just came out in Portuguese in Ludovico, and I really recommend it. Right there. You can, I think you can buy it only through the subscription, but it's an amazing set of articles about, everything just makes sense suddenly, and all we need is laissez-faire capitalism.
They're doing a great job there, and I think Dennis Xavier, you met him? The tall guy from Iran? Yeah, of course he did.
He's great. He wrote several books.
He kind of lives his life, lives and breathes Ayn Rand. And one thing that you said about the selfishness, that it means a lot of things. I co-founded a study group called Insper Liber, which is at Insper. We have a lot of guys here from... it was before I joined IFL. It was actually the thing that got me into learning about liberty. Yeah. And we ended up talking to Yaron Brook.
Yeah, a good friend of mine.
But through we had it's not a graduation plan, but we had a formation. We had a program. And in that program, one of the first things we talk, it's individualism.
Yeah.
And if you go to a dictionary in the United States and you search individualism, you're gonna find a very positive definition. You find it's the art of actually, putting your interests and understanding one's, idea and philosophy. It's a philosophy. But if you go to other places such as Brazil or even France, and you search the meaning of individualism, you find a negative meaning about it.
Definition, yeah.
And it's it's something like, oh, it's just caring about yourself. It's just not caring about others. It's
You see, you just said two different things in one sentence. Caring about yourself and not caring about others.
yeah.
Two
Exactly.
different things.
Exactly.
Yeah,
For the
yeah.
same word.
Yeah, yeah,
And that confusion just leads a lot.
Yeah.
Most debates that I used to get into, they would mostly be solved just by defining